Have you ever heard of a king so horrified by his own victory that he completely changed his life and the course of history? A ruler who went from being a ruthless conqueror to a messenger of peace. This isn't a fairy tale. It's the incredible true story of Ashoka the Great, one of the most remarkable figures in world history. Imagine a vast empire, larger than modern-day India, stretching from the mountains of Afghanistan to the shores of Bangladesh. Now, imagine the man who built it, not with just brute force, but with a revolutionary idea: conquest by morality. But before he became a symbol of peace, he was known by a very different name: Chandragupta or Ashoka the Fierce. Born in the year 304 BCE, Ashoka was a prince of the powerful Mauryan dynasty. From a young age, he was ambitious, intelligent, and a skilled warrior. He wasn't the crown prince, but that didn't stop him. Legends say he outmaneuvered his own brothers in a bloody succession war to claim the throne in 268 BCE. For the first 8 years of his reign, he was every bit the ruthless emperor his nickname suggested. He expanded his empire aggressively, strengthening his grip on the subcontinent. His ambition knew no bounds, and there was one kingdom that stood in his way: Kalinga, a prosperous state on the east coast of India. In 261 BCE, Ashoka launched a massive invasion of Kalinga. The war was brutal and devastating. The Kalingans fought bravely, but they were no match for the might of the Mauryan army. The aftermath was a scene of unimaginable horror. The battlefield was littered with over 100,000 dead, and even more were captured and deported. As Ashoka walked through the field of his victory, he wasn't filled with pride. He was filled with profound remorse and disgust. The sight of the suffering, the cries of the wounded, the grief of the widows and orphans had broke him. This was the turning point. Standing amidst the carnage of his greatest military victory, Ashoka the Fierce died, and a new man was born. He renounced violence forever and embraced Buddhism. His journey from conqueror to enlightened ruler had begun, and it would change the world in ways no one could have imagined. After the Kalinga War, Ashoka's entire approach to governance transformed. He replaced the policy of military expansion, or Digvijaya, with a new concept he called Dhamma, conquest by Dharma, or righteousness. He wasn't just paying lip service to these ideals. He dedicated his life to spreading them. So, how did he do it? One of his most famous methods was through his edicts. Ashoka had his teachings and policies carved onto massive stone pillars and rock faces throughout his vast empire. These weren't just laws. They were personal messages from the emperor to his people, written in local languages so everyone could understand. They spoke of compassion, tolerance, nonviolence, and respect for all living beings, including animals. He established hospitals for both people and animals, and had wells dug in trees, planted along major roads to provide shade and rest for travelers. These pillars, some of which still stand today, are like a 2,300-year-old social media feed, giving us a direct insight into his mind. He urged his officials to be just and kind, reminding them that they were like foster parents to his subjects. He promoted religious tolerance, declaring that one should not praise one's own religion while criticizing another's. Instead, he encouraged respectful dialogue. Think about how radical that was for an emperor of his time. He essentially created one of the world's first welfare states, built on a foundation of ethical principles. His personal life also reflected this change. He gave up the royal hunts and extravagant lifestyle, adopting a more modest and vegetarian diet. He saw his people not as subjects to be ruled, but as his own children, and he felt a paternal responsibility for their well-being, both material and spiritual. But Ashoka's vision wasn't limited to his own empire. He became one of history's greatest missionaries. He sent emissaries of Dharma to kingdoms far and wide, to Greece, Egypt, Syria, and across Southeast Asia. One of the most significant missions was led by his own son, Mahinda and daughter Sangamita, who traveled to Sri Lanka. They carried with them a sapling from the original Bodhi tree under which the Buddha attained enlightenment. That act cemented the spread of Buddhism in Sri Lanka, where it flourishes to this day. Through these peaceful missions, Ashoka transformed Buddhism from a relatively small Indian sect into a major world religion. He didn't force his beliefs on anyone. He simply shared the principles of Dharma, believing in the power of moral persuasion over the power of the sword. This period of his rule, from 260 BCE onwards, is often called the Ashokan Renaissance. It was a time of peace, prosperity, and cultural flourishing. Art and architecture thrived. The famous lion capital of Ashoka from a pillar at Sarnath, featuring 4 lions standing back to back, was adopted as the national emblem of modern India. The wheel at its base, the Ashoka Chakra, is at the center of India's flag, symbolizing the eternal wheel of law and righteousness. His influence was so profound that for centuries after his death, he became a figure of legend, a model for ideal kingship across Asia. However, the details of his life were largely forgotten by history, lost in the mists of time. It wasn't until the 19th century that historians and archaeologists, led by a British scholar named James Prinsep, deciphered the ancient Brahmi script on his pillars. Suddenly, the words of this long-lost emperor spoke to the world again, revealing the full story of his incredible transformation. Ashoka's final years are less documented. He continued to rule with compassion and promote Dharma until his death in 232 BCE, after a reign of nearly 4 decades. After he passed away, the Mauryan Empire began to decline and eventually collapsed about 50 years later. Some historians argue that his policy of nonviolence may have weakened the empire's military, making it vulnerable to invasion. Others believe the empire was simply too vast to be held together without a ruler of his unique caliber. Regardless of the empire's fate, Ashoka's legacy is not measured in territory or military might. It's measured in the enduring power of his ideas. He proved that a ruler's greatness lies not in how many battles they win, but in how much compassion they show. He demonstrated that true strength is found in peace, and that real conquest is the conquest of oneself. In a world still torn by conflict, Ashoka's story is more relevant than ever. He is a timeless reminder that change is possible, even for the most powerful. He shows us that a single individual's choice to embrace peace and empathy can ripple through time, shaping the destiny of millions, and leaving behind a legacy of hope for all humanity. His journey from Ashoka the Fierce to Ashoka the Pious is one of the most powerful stories of personal transformation ever told. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey through history. If you found the story of Ashoka as fascinating as we do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible stories from the past. Let us know in the comments what you think about Ashoka's legacy. See you next time.